If you've ever stood on a piece of land in the Texas Hill Country and tried to picture the home that belongs there, or stood in front of an older home in San Antonio, knowing it's coming down and something extraordinary is going to take its place, you know that feeling. Excited, a little overwhelmed, and not entirely sure where to start. This is the Collier Way, a podcast about what it really takes to build a home that lasts. I am Collier Bashara, Southern Living Builder of the Year and founder of Collier Custom Homes. Every episode, I share what over 2 decades of building luxury homes in San Antonio and the Texas Hill Country has taught me, so you can make better decisions, ask better questions, and find the right team for the most important project of your life. Subscribe and follow along. Every episode, something worth knowing.
How are y'all doing today? My name is Collier Bashara. I'm the owner of Collier Custom Homes, and this is the Collier Way. This is my podcast, and I am walking you through building a custom home. We are super excited about doing a showcase house this year, and we decided it would be a fun and great opportunity to walk all of you all through our showcase home, all the steps that we take, finding a lot, coming up with a design, coming up with the interior design, how we're going to finish it, and really let you see how you build a custom home in hopes that will help you find a home, find a builder, come see us. We hope all those are possible outcomes from this time that we spend together. So today we're going to have a lot of fun in diving into designers. So when you start a home project, we've already walked you through a little bit of this. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to find our lot. After we find our lot, we're going to find our architect. I would encourage the next step would be find your builder and find your designer, be your next 2 steps. Once you have that whole team, you have a great way to move forward. And it's interesting when you start thinking about, okay, what is a designer? I found my architect. Why do I need a designer? Why is that an important step? Designers are critical. And as you've heard with Josh and Brooke, which we talked to a few episodes ago, we all require designers. And the designers are one piece of the puzzle. So there's designers, there's interior designers, and there's architects. And how do all 3 of those go together? So let's kind of break it down. The architect goes to school to become an architect. She is the person who actually draws the plans, comes up with a site plan, puts all the walls where they go, puts the windows in, puts the roof line together. They do elevations. And usually it's a softer elevation. A lot of architects don't do super in-depth elevations, and I personally encourage them not to, since we're going to get with a designer who's actually going to do very in-depth drawings as they get into it. So there's your architect. Now we step into a designer. A designer is someone who also went to school. They have a degree generally. They can be licensed. They understand the intricacies of the building process. So they really understand critical path. They understand when I need my plumbing selections. They understand when I'm going to need a floor plug. They understand the foundation. They understand framing. They understand how the process of building happens, and in hopes then they can kind of guide the client. Now we're going to step into the interior decorator, which everyone generally thinks of next. And I will tell you, the interior decorator is the one who knows how to make the house look beautiful and pretty. They also usually have a degree. They are also usually very skilled. My thing about interior decorators versus designers, an interior decorator is kind of usually the last person who comes in. They're the ones who know, oh, well, let's pick out the couch. Let's pick out the window coverings. Let's pick out the duvet cover. Oh, we need this pillow here. We need these window coverings. They know how to make the house look beautiful at the very end of the project, but they don't necessarily always understand the construction process. And like I've said repeatedly, we're going to require you to have a designer. We think that is a critical part of building a custom home. And we think that for a lot of different reasons. Several years ago, I dove into my projects. Which ones went perfect? Which ones felt like they were stuck in the mud? And we just chugged along and ultimately got there. But it was definitely a process, and it definitely took some steps to get there. So when we looked at it all, we came up with one very consistent fact that happened on every single one of the projects that just got there but struggled to get there. And that was every one of them, they chose to be their own designer. They didn't want to bring a designer in. The wife said, oh, I'm a designer. I'm going to do all my own selections. And I will tell you that was a mistake. And subsequently, we've changed that. We don't allow that to happen anymore. We make you bring in a professional who understands the construction process. Hopefully, they save you money at the end of the day, but they definitely make the process go smoother. So we really feel that's important. Like I said, we build our company on trust. So we trust, you need to trust our team, and part of that's trusting your designer. You're trusting them to really know and be one step ahead of me as we're going through the project. And that way, when my subcontractor randomly shows up because he got off a job early and he comes in, he says, well, what tile are we doing today? And I look in the file, I'm like, oh goodness, we're missing it. I get to call the designer instead of calling you saying, hey, what tile do you want today? And pulling you out of your meeting. So by them knowing the steps and knowing what's getting ready to happen on a job, a lot of times they can be out in front of us and they can make sure they've already asked you the question and they can answer it when I call. There's other important parts of having a designer. The designer is supposed to also make your life easy. She knows where all the stuff is. So instead of you having to run all over town to every single tile store, which becomes overwhelming, by the way, go into a tile store, go into like a Dow Tile, go into a ProSource, go into materials marketing, go into any big store that has tile and see what's there. And you're going to be overwhelmed. There are so many choices. By bringing in a designer, they've simplified that aspect for you. They're going to make your life simpler. They're going to come into you and say, first, they're going to try to understand what you like. And that's important. You got to have a designer that you trust, just like you trust your builder, just like you trust your architect. So you trust this person to really know what you want in your house. Now, they're going to go to the store and they're going to take a lot of the 10,000 options and they're going to bring it down to 3 or 4. They may present you just one and say, well, how do you feel about this? And you say, oh, I love it or I hate it. If you hate it, great. They're going to go find you something else. But it is a natural step and a natural process in terms of making your selection and making your house really what it is for you, not so much for the designer. The designer has your best interest in heart and they really understand. So one, they make your life simple when they go do the selections. The next thing is, like I've said, they understand critical path. So when I am beginning a project and I've been out there, I've got everything staked, I'm getting ready to start scraping dirt, I call the designer, I was like, okay, where are your plumbing selections? Now, why is it important that I have your plumbing selections before I ever set a form board on a foundation? Well, the first thing I'm going to ask for is, where's the primary suite tub? And that's because once they set those forms, the next person coming into that foundation is going to be my plumber. And his first job is going to be to run all the sewer lines. And one of those is going to go directly to your master tub. And he's going to want to know, where is the drain in that tub? And if you haven't selected it yet, we got a problem. And we're going to stop the job and we're going to be sitting there scratching our head saying, what's our tub look like? Where's the drain? Is it on the right side, left side, middle, forward? All of those things have got to be answered. Is there any other special plumbing that needs to happen, that needs drainage? Do you want to have a dog water bowl? We just did that for a client in their mudroom. They wanted a bowl just for the dog. And so we were like, okay, that's great, love it. But let's make sure we have a drain underneath it so we can actually drain that bowl at the end of the day and have an easy way to clean it and make it easier for you. Where are the air conditionings? They need to know, if you're putting an air conditioning in a closet, where's your condensation? We need to make sure you have a drain for that. The designers will be able to answer a lot of those questions just out of the gate. The next thing we're going to ask them for is your floor plugs. If you're going to have a floor plug in your living room, you want a designer to help you with that. The designer is going to say, okay, the floor plug goes right here. And they're going to guess at to where we're going to place your furniture. And then they're going to say, okay, let's try to be underneath the couch so no one sees the plug. Or let's be right over here next to the chairs. If we're going to put a plug in the office, so it's up underneath your desk, they're going to figure out where a desk would go and they're going to tell me where to put those plugs. So they give me that kind of information so we can keep the job moving smoother. The other thing that designers really understand is when they give me a detail, they understand where to put the detail. So I've had it before when I've gotten into a project and we go to set the tile. And here the homeowner has hired an interior decorator instead of a designer. And the interior decorator comes and hands me all their tile selections. And I look at them and I'm like, Well, this tile pattern has a fur down where you have lowered the ceiling in the shower to an 8-foot ceiling instead of a 10-foot ceiling. And like, I was like, that's great. Well, I gave these to you. I was like, I agree, you gave these to me. But this is a tile layout. This isn't a framing layout. Tile layouts need to be about the tile, not about the framing. Framing layout is when you make those adjustments, and designers understand that. Designers really know when I've done a framing plan, if they want to come in and make some modifications to the framing plan because they want something to look different, like in the tile phase, they can put that on there for us. And it's great to have those type of communications along the way to keep the job moving faster. Because if we get to, we've already sheetrocked the house, and I look at your tile plan and your tile plan has an 8-foot ceiling, now what I have to do is rip out the sheetrock, I have to rip out the insulation, I have to rip out the electrical, and I have to basically start over with that ceiling, which costs time and money. And everyone generally is very frustrated when those kinds of things happen. And we like to avoid frustration. We want this to be a fun process. We want you to look forward to coming to the job every week. And I feel strongly that a designer helps with that. The other thing designers help is make these little decisions. In every single house, there's going to be a decision. There is going to be something that you just can't get beyond. And I will tell you, I've probably had it be 50% of the time, it's cabinet hardware. You come in, you bought these gorgeous handles, and now you're holding them up against your cabinets and you can't decide where to put this cabinet hardware. And I've had people stop a job for multiple weeks trying to figure out where to put that cabinet handle. And I finally, on one of my jobs, I looked at the home and I was like, who's your best friend? Oh, Hillary's my best friend. I was like, great. How's Hillary? Great. When was the last time you saw Hillary? Oh, we had dinner last week. I was like, at her house? Oh, yeah. I was like, does she have cabinets? Oh, yeah. Cabinet pulls? Oh, of course. They're gorgeous. I was like, where are they? I don't know. Very rarely do people actually know. And it's not to make anyone feel foolish about it, but at the end of the day, it's something psychological up here that's stopping you from being able to make that decision. And the designer helps you with that. The designer comes out and says, okay, no, this is going to look perfect if you put it right here. You don't need it to line up here. You need it to line up here. And we're able to keep the job moving, which we want to get you in your job as soon as possible. You know, someone once asked me just last weekend actually, what's the difference? I don't understand. And they're like, okay. And I tried to explain it in terms of a body to somebody. I was like, here is the architect. They come in and they are the bones of your house. So they create all the walls. They're giving the structure. They're giving the bones. Now, the designer's your next person. The designer gives you the hearts, the lungs, and the skin. They give you everything that makes the body the body. Now, here comes the interior designer. The interior designer is the one who puts the lipstick, the rouge, the hair color. They're the ones who make it all look pretty. And that was a kind of a fun analogy. And she chuckled, and I was like, okay, I guess that works. And it does if you really kind of think about it when you're thinking about your house. So it's one way to think about your house in terms of how you're moving it all the way to the end and the fun parts of putting this together. So I've told you I require a designer. And generally when a new client comes to meet with me, we sit down, we talk about, I've said, we've talked about everything. I was like, if you don't trust me, spidey hair, let's not move forward. So you've decided you trust me. I've taken you to an architect, and let's say it's Elizabeth. You fell in love with her. We're moving forward with Elizabeth. Now it's time to find a designer. And you're like, I've got someone. I'm like, okay, great. Now understand the requirement exists. You have to have a designer. So one of the things that I do hold back is I reserve the right to approve your designer, because a lot of times it's still an interior decorator. And I kind of explained that a little bit in the past, and I reserve the right to say you still have to have a designer. If I meet with or look into the designer, interior decorator, and I'm like, no, they just really don't understand the construction process. Again, I'm looking out for your best interest, and your builder should be looking out for your best interest. If you're talking to another builder and they really say, oh, use whomever, I'd be a little concerned. I think this is important. I think it's very important. We're going to spend some time talking about this throughout the project. I promise we're going to talk a lot about designers. And so your options become very vast at that stage. I will say you certainly have the option of keeping your interior decorator on board and to help you make decisions. So now we're going to create a little bit bigger of a team. And I love it. I've had a client before who brought in a colorist someone who just picks wall colors and exterior colors and paint colors. That's their whole job, is picking your colors. They brought in their interior decorator who did amazing things with the curtains and the pillows and making everything look fabulous at the end of the day. And then we brought in a designer as well. And the designer kind of quarterbacked the other two and said, okay, together we are a team of 3 and we're going to get it to the finish line. And I love that kind of collaboration. It's a great option, and it shouldn't be a who's the king. It should be, we're going to build a beautiful house. And that's what I think everyone should be trying for at the end of the day. And by having that whole team work together, it can work, and it can work really well. I've seen it more than once. But I've had clients who've dug in their heels too, and it has cost me clients before when I was like, no, this is important and I'm going to require it. So it's not necessarily a fun conversation, but it's one that needs to happen sometimes. And again, it's always looking out for keeping the job moving and making it go smoothly. So keep that in mind as you move through in the project. Our next episode I'm really excited about as well. We are bringing in Mariana. She has done all the selections for our showcase home. And she is an extremely talented designer, and she's going to kind of walk you through her process as well. She's going to tell you about how she meets with clients, how she comes up with her creative ideas, and really is going to show you some beautiful things at the end of the day. I'm not sharing all of her drawings. I want some of my showcase house to be a surprise to you and for you to come out and see, but we're going to share a lot of her elevations, and she's going to be with us through this whole process actually. And we'll talk a lot about how she has selected and how she has made rooms what they are, and how she likes to approach a house, and how she works with the architect, how she works with the builder, and how she works with the homeowner. And with that, I'm going to let you guys go. Don't forget to have a designer. Remember how they are an important part of your team. And thank you for watching. Hit subscribe. I hope you're enjoying these podcasts, and I look forward to seeing you on the next show. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.
This has been The Collier Way. Thank you for spending time with me today. New episodes every week. Subscribe whenever you listen to podcasts, and follow along on YouTube. I am Collier Bashara. See you soon, and have a great day.